All right, so today, or what I'm going to do now is I am going to do a time test between how long it takes me to make a 5-round square with the granny square yarn and how long it takes me to make a 5-round square with just regular yarn changing colors every round. So I have made one square already using this yarn, so I know I need to start more than 4 inches from the end. There's more of the middle color than I need, so I'm going to start here. We're going to go by the time on the video to time these. All right, so start. Nice. Didn't have to rip this row back. It's always nice. Yeah, I have a little bit too much of this left, so I'm going to rip back and go a little looser. It's like the weirdest game of yarn chicken ever. I think that'll do. Yep. Oh, we might actually have this one. It's close enough. This ball's not pulling out as nicely as the first ball did. I think it must have gotten squished at some point. See, and I can see the next color coming up. And in my mind, I think it's not enough color. And then I think, oh, it's too much color. And then, yeah. definitely a weird game of yarn chicken. I think maybe I've gone too loosely. Yeah. Yeah, that's not enough to do 3 doubles. So we're gonna rip back and work a little more close, what's the word? Tightly. Okay. You might make it. Somehow doubt it. Oh, I'm gonna call that close enough because the chain stitches are gonna get covered, right? Okay. So we're on our last round. Wow. I feel like I have a little bit of leeway with this round on account of I'm not using the full center round color. But on the square that I made before, the end that I wove in was the center color, and it was hard to hide it because it didn't really match the surrounding colors. I did it. It works. It's just, it would have been nice if the end was the same color, you know? And this center color is so much darker than the center color on the other ball that I was using. So it'll be even harder to hide it. Oh dear. I see the middle color coming up and I don't think I'm gonna make it. Let's see. Oh, no, I don't think so. Let's make sure though. No. All right, just tiny touch tighter. Let's go back about a side and a half. If you're wondering about the gauge of fiddling with this, like I'm doing the stitches a bit tighter on the side here, but not the whole round. The thing with granny squares is they're very forgiving when it comes to gauge. So your blanket made this way will turn out just fine. I hope I'm going tight enough. There's supposed to be 4 inches of white left, if I understand correctly. Ah, I didn't make it again. Okay, I think I gotta rip back much farther, especially if I want a white end to weave in. I'm ripping back to the beginning. It's just I did the other rounds fairly loosely compared to my normal gauge, so that's kind of annoying. Now I do know I'm not using the pattern that they suggest, and I'm not using the hook that they suggest, but for me, if I can't do my granny squares the way that I want to do them, then the yarn is not useful to me as a granny square yarn. Those familiar with my patterns know that I do granny squares all the time. Right, we're going tight. My hand hurts a little bit. Which, you know, crocheting shouldn't hurt. Oh, we're gonna make it this time. I'm pretty sure. Okay. Yep. There we go. Gosh, that might even be a 4-inch end. Okay, I'm gonna cut it off just before the purple. Let's weave in the ends. Now, the end weaving on this would normally take me a little bit longer than you're gonna see here, only because I purposely leave longer ends, usually about 6 inches, to make weaving in the ends easier. And because I can start so late on the center round, this first end will get woven in at roughly the same rate as I would weave in ends normally. But that outside end's looking a little small for me, so we'll have to see. Now, I am weaving my ends in fairly thoroughly. I always do. This yarn probably doesn't need this much care, but the better you weave in your ends, the longer your blanket will last. Okay, now we get this. It's almost long enough, so it might be okay. A little bit of purple into the white, but I don't hate that. I think it's quite nice. It really sort of brings the color together. Okay, so there, I've just gone back and forth in the corner. I think that's secure enough for this yarn. And done. There's our square. It cups a little. That doesn't bother me. When it's joined together with others, it'll sort itself out. You could always block it if you wanted to, but it's acrylic, so I wouldn't bother. All right, so I went stash diving and I found some yarn. I think it'll go well together well. We'll see, I guess. And I am going to make a square with a granny square with 5 rounds, each a different color, the old-fashioned way, with 5 balls of yarn. So I've just gone stash diving and these will do for now. Let's see how this goes and start. I've just arranged my colors here by how big the ball is. So this sort of speckled green is the smallest ball I've got on the table, so it's going to be the center. That's round 1. Round 2 is going to be this light blue color. It's going to start on a different corner than I ended on, just for ease of weaving in the ends. I highly recommend you do that. Okay. Seeing this color now, don't think these go together particularly well, but that doesn't matter for the test we're doing. I find with color, if you have a situation like this where you're mixing colors together and you don't think they look quite right, just add more colors until they do look right. That'll usually do the trick. Okay, I don't know if I'm going too fast, but you may have noticed I did crochet over the outside end of the green there. That's how I would normally do it if I was making my squares this way. That is not the end weaving I'm going to do. Okay, we're going on to this dark blue now because it is the sort of middle-sized ball. Okay, there I'm crocheting over the end of the light blue. Again, this is not the only sort of end tucking I'm going to do. It's just the start of it. You might as well do it as you go by. Okay, and that's round 3. Alright, done with that one. Now we're going to do this Kelly green, because it is my second largest ball of scrap yarn. I mean, the main difference as far as the crocheting goes is I don't have to worry about maintaining sort of a weird gauge for me. I can just do it. And there's not that sort of, I wouldn't go as far as to call it anxiety, but there's not that sort of yarn chicken feeling to it. You know, I clearly have enough green to make it around this round, so if you don't have an anxiety disorder, maybe it's not a concern of yours. I wonder what that's like. All right, so that's the end of round 4. Okay, and I got this light green to do on, actually I'm gonna go directly across from where I started the dark green, just for end weaving ease. My yarn just is not cooperating with me today. Okay. I did just think of something. If you were doing join as you go for these squares, I mean, you'd have to go down a hook size in order to make room in that last round of color for the extra chains you do for joining as you go. I wonder if the Red Heart Granny Square yarn has an equivalent in their regular yarns, like if you could get a solid. I mean, I don't know how they're assuming we're going to be joining these together. I should look that up before I finish the review. But yeah, with Granny Squares, I would either join as you go, so on this last round, join it to another square I've made already, or I would do the continuous join as you go, in which case I'd need a solid color. Ooh, I wonder what this yarn looks like joining squares together. Interesting. Okay, we're coming up on the end of this last side now. All right, and we are going to weave the ends in. I kind of wish I could do this as a separate video, because I don't have one on weaving in ends in a granny square that changes color every row. But, you know, if this yarn stands up to what you think it'll do, maybe I won't be needing that. I'm going to do this center the same way that I did on the other square. And I do all the other ends, well, we'll see. I'm probably going to do all of the other ends in a similar way to how I did the outside end on the other square. We'll go up this side. And go under here. I don't like that I don't like there being a hole in the middle, I guess. And so I tend to weave this first end in very securely so that it will not come apart. Okay. Missed the one stitch there, so it's already gone past one way. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to try to stab through the yarn I've already woven in. Good enough. Let's do our light blue here. Across. Try to stab through. And go back. All right. So this is end number 4. It would have gone under this already. Okay, that is pretty good. Doing the dark blue now. Probably should have had more lights on if I was going to do yarn this dark, but oh well. Probably looks fine on the camera. Oh, this seems very... There we go. one's pretty snug. The yarn I used in this square is, I believe it's all Loops and Threads Impeccable. That light blue might be Bernat Premium though. It's just, it feels a little softer, and the Premium is a little softer than the Impeccable. They're the same gauge though for me, so I put the scraps for them together in my stash. Oh, that was a good weave. Oh, that definitely went through some. Nice and secure. Okay. Well, this last one's going to be trickier because I'll want to weave both of these ends into the same bottom here. So I'm going to do the first end because I've already worked over it. Oh, that was a good one. Now, if I was doing continuous join as you go, I might even be tempted to leave this end until I've added the join on, and I can weave it in under that, but that would be cheating for this test. So I am going to go across the tops of these stitches. I am not going around the V shapes on the top that you would normally work into. I've gone down a bit, and there's like these little leg parts of the stitch that are near the top. That's what I'm weaving under. So I'm going to go about that far. Make sure I haven't misshapen things, and go back the way it came. Definitely stabbing through where I have woven in already. I'll keep it nice and tucked in. There we go. And done. Here's our 5-round square. Here's the first one. They're about the same size. This one might be a tiny bit smaller, but they will work together in the same blanket if it weren't for the colors. So, yeah, I can't wait until I get into editing to see which one won. Editing Mio here. By my rough calculations, the square using the Red Heart Granny Square yarn took about 58 seconds less time to make.